Hey, Shalom Makim Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakodash. Once again, I want to say, call hello, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. And as always, I want to give much peace, love, and salutation to the elect of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, that's pushing us word with all truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Tazamah from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back today with another lesson. And Lord willing, this lesson will be edifying. And what I want to do today was do a lesson on Daniel, the 8th chapter. I've been wanting to do a breakdown on this chapter for some time now. And, Elder Apostle Ramlab did a lesson some time ago. And while he was doing the lesson, he pulled up a precept from Daniel chapter 8, verse 25 about the scripture says that he shall cause, through his policy, he shall cause craft to prosper. And, at times, which I've done it before too, at times we can use that precept, which it is alluding to Esau, but if, just to qualify the scriptures in specific, it's talking about Antiochus the fourth, all right? It's talking about Antiochus and Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes. So, it's good to know on particular breakdowns and prophetic scriptures, if it's talking about a future prophecy or if it's talking about something that's already happened. It's just good to qualify the scriptures and break it down, regarding of who it's really talking about in the context. So what I want to do here is go through Daniel, the 8th chapter. And like I said, Lord willing, this lesson will be edifying because a lot of this chapter, pretty much the whole chapter, in a sense, is really just history that's already came to pass, But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So this is the book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 1. It says, "In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first." All right, and after the vision that appeared unto him at the first is, when you read Daniel, the 7th chapter, he's seen the 4 beasts rise out the sea. He also had a vision, in Daniel, the 2nd chapter of the image that Nebuchadnezzar seen. All right. It says, and I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. Now, Shushan is another way also of saying Susa, and it was actually like a summer home for Persian kings. It was like a Persian capital. Now, when you go to the book of Esther, I want to say it's Esther, the 1st chapter, the 2nd verse. Let me get it real quick here. Right, this is Esther chapter 1, verse 1. It says, "Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus," which Ahasuerus is I want to say this is Artaxerxes, and I want to say it's Artaxerxes the second, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, let's just to prove it, let's get it in the blue letter here. It says, "Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus," which, when you get that word Ahasuerus, that word in the Hebrew is Achash Wa Rawash. All right, or you got Achashwaras. Ahasuerus equals I will be silent and poor. It says title of the king of Persia, probably Xerxes. All right, Ahasuerus or Xerxes. Right. So this is talking about Xerxes here. Let's see. It occurs in frequently in the book. The campuses be understood in Daniel. So this is talking about Xerxes, okay? And this is the same, I won't say this is the same Xerxes from 300, from the movie 300, I'd rather say. But Ahasuerus is just another way of saying Xerxes, which is really just a title. Like Nebuchadnezzar was a title. Xerxes was a title. All right. Tiglath-Pileser was a title. All right. Sennacherib. All these different, these were really titles that that particular kings had upon themselves. But to go back to the point, that says, Xerxes there reigned 486 to 465. It says, this Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, which is in the image that Daniel seen, this would be the breastplate of silver. All right. It says over 120 provinces, that in those days when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace. See that? Shushan the palace, or which is Susa, which when you go into it, like I said, it was a place where the kings of Persia would go. It was like their summertime home. So this is a vision that Daniel, when you go back to Daniel, the 8th chapter, it says, and it says verse 2, and I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, right, which is in the province of Elam, right, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. And then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. I'm gonna read the whole verse. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. All right, so this horn, or this ram with the 2 horns, whereas both of them were high, but the highest one came up last, is talking about the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, and the higher part that came up last is talking about the Persian Empire, or the Achaemenid Empire. Okay, because you had pretty much the Medes, all right, which were in power at first, but the Persians pretty much added on. The Medo-Persian Empire pretty much became the Persian Empire because the Medes pretty much got added into the Persian kingdom. Okay, now when you go back to Daniel, the 7th chapter, all right, and when you read verse 5, it says, and behold, another beast, a second like to a bear. Okay, and it raised up itself on one side. You see that? So in Daniel 8, you have a ram with 2 horns, but the second part of the horns came up higher than the other. And here it is. It says that the bear raised itself up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And the 3 ribs really goes into north, south, and west. All right, when you go into it in the directions, because you did have different battles. You had, for example, key battles that took place that pretty much solidified the Persian Empire, like the Battle of Pelusium, the Battle of Thembra, the Battle of Opis, the fall of Babylon. But really it's going into directions, as we're going to read here in Daniel 8. It says, and they said unto it, arise, devour much flesh. All right, because this was the next kingdom that was to rule according to prophecy, right? And then so verse 4, it says, I saw the ram pushing westward, right, and northward and southward, because Elam was already in the east. So it says, when it said, I saw the ram pushing westward towards the west, towards Babylon, northward, all right, where you had pretty much them conquering Lydia, right, and southward, right, Egypt. But it's going into directions here, right, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great, right, because all this was due to prophecy playing out. And you can read up on the Achaemenid Empire on your own time. Verse 5, it says, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. All right, this he-goat here is talking about the Greek Empire, all right, or the king of Greece. Okay, it says, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Okay, now before we get some precepts, let's get this word notable. All right, this word notable, when you get it in the Hebrew, is pronounced chazawath or chazwath. All right, and notable here says vision or conspicuous. And when something is conspicuous, it's something that protrudes or something that stands out. Okay, that's what the word conspicuous means. It means something that's pretty much coming out. Conspicuous in appearance, a conspicuous horn. You see? in that conspicuous horn. So let's go back and read it again. It says, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west, right? Greece, on the face of the whole earth, and the whole known earth at that time was around the Great Sea, or the Mediterranean, right? And touched not the ground. And it touching not the ground goes into the speed of how the Greco-Roman Empire came into play. Okay, it says, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes, and that notable horn between his eyes is going into Alexander the Great, or we call him Alexander the Greek. He was that notable horn. He was the main king of Greece that stood out. Now you had Philip II of Macedon that had particular wars and campaigns that pretty much, I ain't gonna say really put put the kingdom of Greece on the map, but Alexander the Greek was the main one that stood out. Okay, and you can read about Alexander here in the book of 1 Maccabees, and this is all history. All right, this is all biblical history. And people want to say that the Bible is not valid, but here it is. You have prominent figures that you can read about in secular history mentioned in the scriptures. Now, this is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. It says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, all right, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, right? So this is the fall of the Persian Empire, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, right? And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, as we're reading in prophecy, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. You see, the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahawashi, put the spirit upon Alexander the Greek to fulfill prophecy. And he did it in a fast span of time, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And this was the beginning of the Hellenistic, the pushing of the Hellenistic period, when he began to Hellenize pretty much the whole known world, right? And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Right? Wherefore he called his servants, which we're going to get here in a minute. It says, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So he split his kingdom up, right? So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. You see, so a span of 12 years, which was a very, very, very fast span of time, Alexander the Greek pretty much conquered the whole known world, and it was with swiftness. Now I have an article pulled up here. It says Alexander the Greek, or the Great. It says, a great conqueror, in 13 short years he amassed the largest empire in the entire ancient world, an empire that covered 3,000 miles. And he did this without the benefit of modern technology and weaponry. Why? Because the Spirit of the Lord was upon him to do so, for prophecy's sake. In his day, troop movements were primarily on foot, and communications were face to face. Not bad for a kid who became the king of Macedon at the age of 20. He was 20 years old when he became king. And here it is. It shows you the pretty much, it says this map shows Alexander the Great's massive empire and the route he took to conquer it. So you see where he came from. He came from the west. You see where it says Macedonia and Greece, and he conquered pretty much the whole area of where the Persians had, but he came from the west. Okay. And you can read this on your own time, you know. But yeah, then it goes pretty much this fulfills, it lines up with biblical prophecy to the T. You see? Talks about the Hellenism that he spread, you know. But going back to the prophecy, because I just want to read that in First Maccabees. Let's go ahead and grab Daniel, the 7th chapter, and read verse 6. It says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. You see, and this is the same beast. All right, like it tells you in Revelation, the 13th chapter. Let's actually grab that real quick, because it said that it was likened unto a leopard, right? Revelation 13, verse 2, it says, and the beast which I saw, now this is the Apostle John, in the island of Patmos, receiving a vision of the beginning of the rulership of the Edomites. And it begins with what? A leopard, you see? And his feet were as the feet of a bear, which goes into the fall of it, which is going to be by way of Gog and Magog, or the Russians. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion, which is Great Britain or England, right? And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So this is the beginning of the Edomite rule, as we're reading here in Revelation, the 13th chapter. Okay, now going back to Revelation 7, and after this I beheld, verse 6, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. Now wings represent swiftness, like the wings of an eagle represents a swiftness. So it had 4 wings, which represents vast swiftness, or very, very fast quickness, which goes into the quickness of Alexander conquering the known world at the time, right? The beast had also 4 heads, which goes into the 4 generals that he split his kingdom up between, and dominion was given to it. Okay, you can also go to Daniel, the 11th chapter, and we'll start at verse 1. Daniel 11 and 1. It says, also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, right? Darius the Mede here gives you Darius the Mede. Let's get this word Darius here. That word is Dariawash in Daniel 11 and 1. Darius the Mede, because you had different. Darius was also a title given. Okay. So it says, also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. All right, there shall stand up 3 kings in Persia. It says, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all. And this 4th king of Persia that's going to stand up is talking about Artaxerxes. And this is the same Xerxes that you find in the movie 300. All right, where you had the Spartans that was fighting against the Persians. This is the same Xerxes that's talked about here in Daniel 2. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. You see that? And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion. It says a mighty king is going to stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. Who is this mighty king talking about? This mighty king here is talking about Alexander. Okay. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken. Pretty much standing up means to rise. His kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven. There it is again. And not to his posterity, meaning not to his children or his sons. Because Alexander the 4th, he did have a son. He did have posterity. But his posterity, I want to say that Alexander the 4th was murdered by, I want to say he was murdered by Cassander, if I'm not mistaken. He had put him to death. It says, nor according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. And the king of the south shall be strong, Ptolemy, and one of his princes, Ptolemy Soter. And he shall be strong above him and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And this is going into, when you read Daniel, the 11th chapter, this is going into the Syrian wars. Okay. Now, let's go back to Daniel 8. All right. And let's read verse 6. It says, and he came to the ram that had 2 horns. Now, the ram is talking about the kingdom of the Persians and the Medo-Persian Empire, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. Okay. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him. pretty much anger, right? And smote the ram and break his two horns. You see that? And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. All right, because the kingdom of the Greeks, or the Grecian Empire, pretty much dismantled the kingdom of the Persians, the Achaemenid Empire. And you had key wars that took place. You had key wars that took place that pretty much caused the fall of the Persian Empire. Okay, verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. All right, the he-goat is talking about the kingdom of the Greco kingdom, the kingdom of Greece. Because remember, the notable horn is Alexander, right? And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. Alexander died. He fell sick and he died, right? And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. We just read that in Daniel 11. Okay, we just read that in Daniel 11 verse 4. We read that in Daniel the 7th chapter verse 6, where it says he had this leopard had four heads. You see? And you can also read this in First Maccabees, the first chapter verse 9. Okay? It says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. You see, they pretty much all had a piece of dominion. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. This is the beginning of where great wickedness began to be pushed by the Edomites. You see, in his servants, you had Cassander. Well, actually, let me pull this up here, because you had something called the Dochi. It says Wars of the Dochi. And here's a map that you can see here of the areas that they ruled. So you had Seleucus, which pretty much ruled within Syria, Mesopotamia, and part of Israel. Okay, which is the part of his kingdom was vast. You had Antagonist, right? Which is Antagonist was one also that came up with Alexander. You see, but the main ones was Seleucus, Ptolemy, which ruled in Egypt in the south. You know, you had Cassander, which pretty much ruled in the area of Greece and Macedonia. Then you had Lysimachus, which ruled over in the Thebes area, or Asia Minor, as you see here in this map. And this is after Alexander died. Okay, so let me just go down a little bit. Well, let's just read the top paragraph. You can read this on your own time. It says, on June 10th, 323 BC, Alexander the Great died in Babylon. Although historians have debated the exact cause, most agree that the empire he built was left without adequate leadership, for there was no clear successor or heir. Once again, because you had Cassander, who put Alexander IV to death. Right? That's why we read in the prophecy that it won't be left to his posterity. The military commanders who had followed the king for over a decade across the sands of Asia were left to fight each other over their small piece of territorial pie. And this is the same thing that Esau does today, fighting against one another for power and position. You got these elites doing this. You got the elites of the nation of Esau, Edom, doing this now, fighting for who's going to have the biggest piece of the pie. That's why the scripture says that a kingdom divided against itself can't stand. It's always been infighting and wars between the Edomites, man. Right? These were the wars of succession, or the wars of the Dochi. You see, what followed were over 3 decades of intense rivalry. In the end, 3 dynasties would emerge, remaining in power until the time of the Romans, lining right up with biblical prophecy. That fourth beast who had teeth of iron, right? The legs that were iron in Daniel 2 leads right up into the Roman Empire. You see? That's what, and you can read about the Dochi in your own time. Okay? But going back to the scriptures, Daniel 8 verse 9, right? It says, and out of one of them came forth a little horn. Now, this little horn here isn't talking about America here in Daniel 8 and 9. Okay? This little horn here talked about in Daniel 8 and 9 is talking about Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, which came, it says he came out of the little horn, which that little horn that he came out of was the Seleucids. Well, he came out of the line of Seleucid, right? And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, right, toward the south, because he was warned. A lot of the stuff that you read in Daniel, the 11th chapter, is the wars between the Seleucid Empire and the war between the Ptolemaic Empire, the Syrian wars. Okay, it said, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east, right, and toward the pleasant land. Okay, and you can read this in 1 Maccabees 1 and 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes. And Epiphanes literally means God manifest, which this man was a demon. And he was an Edomite, right? Son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Okay, this is the same wicked root that we're reading about here in Daniel 8, or that little horn. Okay, and you can also too, because it said that he went toward the south, because he had wars, but he had a lot of wars mainly between Ptolemy. Okay, and let me just pull this up real quick here. This is we're not going to read this whole thing. Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, head of Antiochus as Zeus. Because actually, when you go into the history, this damn devil thought that he called himself Zeus he called himself Zeus in the flesh. So pretty much he deemed himself to be literally a god, which goes to show you the pride of these devils, man. Okay. It says king of Syria reigned from 175 BC, died in 164. He was the son of Antiochus the Great, and after the murder of his brother Seleucus, took possession of the Syrian throne, which rightly belonged to his nephew Demetrius. Okay, this Antiochus is styled in rabbinical sources the wicked. Malachi 1 and 4, letting you know who the wicked is, man. Who are the wicked on the planet Earth, man? It's the Edomites, man. Okay, and you can read more of this on your own. This is from JewishEncyclopedia.com. Check it out, just to get the sources in the history and the time frame of what was going on at this time for yourself. Okay, going back to verse 9, I was read it again. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which we just broke that down, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, right, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And what's the pleasant land? Okay, the pleasant land is talking about Israel. Psalm 48 verse 2. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion. Okay, so proving what the motherland is and the greatest land, the greatest plot of land is. That people say it's Africa. No, it's Israel. Read it again. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion. On the sides of the north, the city of the great king. And where's the city of the great king? Jerusalem, the pleasant land. Okay, and when you go into history, when you go back, not here, but you can read it. You can read it in that article. But when you go back to it, let's read 1 Maccabees chapter 1. Let's go to verse 18. Let's start at verse 17. It says, wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. And he said that he waxed toward the south, right? But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel in Jerusalem with a great multitude. He went toward the pleasant land and entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the shewbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. And took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures with the which he found. See, this is him defiling the temple. This is he had made the abomination. This is the first abomination that make it desolate. You see, and this is history, man. And you can also read this in Daniel chapter 11 as well, verse 21. We'll get that verse real quick here, then we'll go back because I don't want this lesson to be too long. I just want to hit the points, right? This is Daniel chapter 11, verse 21. It says, and in his estate shall stand up a vile person. This vile person here is talking about Antiochus IV, right? To whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And we're going to read the precept that links with this in Daniel, the 8th chapter, because this lines up with Daniel 8 and 25, right? It says that he shall attain the kingdom with flatteries, because he came in peaceably. When you read in Maccabees, he came in peaceably. And then what happened? He had war in his heart, as it tells you in Psalm 55. Just as these devils always like to do. Same old right? Verse 10, it says, and it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. You see? And him waxing great, and pretty much his head reached into the skies. Pretty much him being proud. You see? That's why the scripture says, I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will be like the Most High. He literally feigned himself as being a god on earth. Antiochus did. That's why. I mean, look at his epithet. Antiochus Epiphanes, God manifest. Same mindset that these devils have today. And cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. And the stars goes into who? The Israelites. We're likened unto stars as well. Just to prove that, let's get Genesis 37 and 2, or 37 and 9. I mean, I want to say it is. Just to prove who the stars is talking about here. It says, and this is Joseph's dream. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brethren, and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. The sun and the moon is talking about Jacob. All right. And Rachel. I want to say because Rachel was the mother, just to prove, just to make sure I'm proving the point. Okay, because I don't want to be outwardly speaking. It might have been Leah. Let me just type in Joseph real quick here. So I just want to make sure. Yeah, no, the sons of Rachel. Okay, I was correct. So this is the sun and the moon is talking about Jacob and Rachel, and then the 11 stars is talking about his brothers, the sons of Jacob, right? So just to prove who the stars is talking about, the Israelites. We're likened unto stars as well too, and also just another precept to prove that is Revelation the 12th chapter. Revelation the 12th chapter verse 4, it says, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. And this, let's start up at verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head, which is the Roman Empire. You see, and specifically, this is talking about King Herod too. Okay. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. The third part is talking about who? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and did cast them to the earth. We were casted down and we were put in slavery underneath the Romans, right? And the dragon stood before the woman, Herod, right, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Because when you go into it, whenever Yahushua was born, all right, they was looking to put Yahushua to death. That's where the prophecy comes, where it says Rachel weeping for her children, or the slaughter of the innocents, in a sense. See, because you had all the sons that were that were 2 years of age and under that were being put to death because he was looking for Yahushua. But what happened was, according to history, Yahushua, Joseph, Mary, Yahushua, they fled into Egypt for a little while because the angel commanded them to do so for prophecy's sake. That's where another prophecy says that my son shall be called out of Egypt. Okay, but that's just another precept to prove who the stars are. So let's go back to the book of Daniel, the 8th chapter, and we're going to read verse 9. It says in verse 10, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. We read that in First Maccabees. He pretty much came into Jerusalem and slaughtered Jake, man. And you can read this history in the Maccabees. Right? It says, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. You see, he took away the daily sacrifice by profaning the altar, sacrificing swine's flesh on the altar. Okay, stopping the circumcision of our children. He pretty much outlawed it. To whereas if you called yourself an Israelite, he completely outlawed it, man. And the place of his sanctuary was cast down, pretty much the desolation of the temple. Specifically, the sacrifice was taken away. Okay? And you can read that in Daniel, the 11th chapter. And I'm almost finished. Daniel chapter 11. We'll start at verse 31. Daniel 11:31, it says, "An arm shall stand on his part," which is a military policy or military, right? "And they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." Because they put idols in the temple too, and they were sacrificing to Jupiter or Zeus. The same thing. "And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries." See, what are flatteries? Flatteries are pretty much smooth words. But the people that do know their power shall be strong and do exploits. You see? And this goes into what? The Maccabean revolt. Going to the time of Judas Maccabeus, his brothers, and fighting against the Greeks. "And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days." See? And because the Greeks, all right, they put hell on Israel, man. They was putting hell on us, man. It says, "Now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries." And you can read that in First Maccabees, the 1st chapter. "Let us make a covenant with the heathen that gave them license to do sin. And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god." This is talking about Antiochus. "And shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, against Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished." You see, for that is determined shall be done. "Neither shall he regard the power of his fathers," right? "Nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all." And like I said, he actually called himself a god. Antiochus Epiphanes did. He actually did that. You see? And going back to the prophecy in verse 11, or verse 12 now, it says, "And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice, an army was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground." Okay. And it practiced and prospered. See, the temple was laid desolate for a period of time. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto the certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host, the Israelites, to be trodden underfoot? Right? And he said unto me, until 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And this is going into the time of Hanukkah, or also known as Hanukkah. Now it says 2,300 days here. Now when you do the math, when you look at it, we'll do days to years. 2,300 days is what? 6.3 calendar years. Now you would ask yourself, it didn't take 6 years for the temple to be dedicated. It was roughly 3 years. So when you get the word days here in the Hebrew, I don't know why it keeps going up to the top. When you get that word days here in the Hebrew, all right, that word, well, when you read it in the context here, it says Wayamar, and he said Aliyah, Id, Irab Bakwar. Irab is evening and Bakwar is morning. So it's literally 2,000. So when you read it in the context, it says unto 2,300 evenings and mornings. Because according to the law, you had something called the evening and the morning sacrifice. When you get it, Exodus 29 and 38, it says, now this is that which thou shalt offer upon the altar, 2 lambs of the first year, day by day continually. Day by day continually, 2 lambs. The one lamb shalt thou offer in the morning, and the other lamb shalt thou offer in the evening. So when you do the 2,300, right, as we read here in Daniel 8 and 14, when you do 2,300, right, divided by 2, you get 1,150. Because remember, it says evenings and mornings. You had 2 sacrifices, the evening sacrifice and the morning sacrifice, right? So you get 1,150. And when you do 1,150, you get 3.1 calendar years. Roughly 3 years. See that? And when you get the history down here, see if I can find it. Yep. Let's take a look down here on the bottom. I'll kind of zoom in so you can see where I'm at. It says here, I'm gonna just read from let me see. Hold on. Let me just do it like this. How many years did it take for the temple to be cleansed? Or I just say Hanukkah. Let's see if it gives the years here for the history of it. Let's see, historical sources. Let me try one more. All right, let's see. Well, it talks about it here, but when you get particular resources, They say that it was from 167 to 164 BC that the temple was made desolate to the time it was cleansed, and that's 3 years. Okay, so that's where the 2,000. All right, that's where the 2,300 days comes in. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, and that's going into the time where the temple was rededicated. Okay, and then of course when you read down through the rest of the chapter, it breaks it down. The vision is pretty much broken down. Okay, but for the sake of time, I just wanted to go through the first part of the vision. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. If you have any questions or add-ons to the scriptures that was brought out, please put them in the comment board. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Hakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and taught us His truth, and much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Shalom.